broadcast. And the channel is live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Blades in the Dark.
Blades
Hey.
in the dark.
Yes, I am Christiana Ellis, and I am the Game Master. Our players tonight, Paul Fisher playing Zinhorn, aka Garland.
Yo, how you doing?
Jenny Meltzer playing Zaleen, aka Nightshade.
There is no Zaleen, only Nightshade.
Mark Kilfoyle playing Nedry, aka Indigo.
I have a plan, a very cunning plan.
And Starla Hutchton as, I'm trying to remember what order I was doing, Carolina Swift, aka Primrose.
Yo.
Yo.
So, when we last left our heroes, the Pocket Protectors had assumed magical alter egos granted to them with the favor of some archfey that they helped out to help them infiltrate the moon-shadowed sea, a place where a notoriously dangerous and paranoid fae known as the Lady Despair is in possession of a future-telling diamond with infinite facets that you feel like should belong to you all. You need it. But because so that they won't see you coming, or will have more difficulties with that in any case, you have assumed these alternate identities to infiltrate the area and learn more about it before you make your attempt. And so, in the process of doing this arc, we have switched game systems from Dungeons and Dragons 5e to Blades in the Dark, as mentioned previously. So, last time, this new group has made their way to this strange region of the Feywild, where out in the ocean, a region of the water is shadowed by a tiny, tiny eclipse. And that area of the water also within that shadow glows a little bit. And the water there has a special property where even creatures who normally can't breathe water can there. But also the normal properties of buoyancy are somewhat suspended. So anything that would normally float in that water will sink in this region. And it is reputed legendarily to be the place where all lost things go. And you've arrived at the docks, which border it. They're on the surface, and it is the place where all of the people come to either pursue treasure hunting themselves, looking for something lost, or to do trade with the people who salvage and scavenge the depths. So you've already sort of made a contact in Captain Barbles, the big catfish-headed ship captain. You've learned a little bit about where you might be looking to find a headquarters, and you've started establishing a cover story that you're here to be treasure hunters. Right now, we have some clocks on there. You're looking to find a good place for a headquarters, and you're at 3 out of 4 ticks on that clock. You're at 3 out of 6 ticks on the clock of establishing your cover story, but you're also at 1 tick out of 6 of raising suspicions. So, now that you have arrived at the docks, you are no longer in controlled circumstances. You are now in risky positions as by default. But you've been dropped off. You've arrived at the docks from this ship. What would you like to do?
Well, I believe we were given a lead on some taverns, something like that.
So there
I'm
is
trying to remember. It's been a few weeks.
So the one place here on the docks that is the closest thing to a normal tavern is a place called the Mended Net. And it's the only place that's really like a fixed location that is, you know, a tavern in the traditional sense of a place that you can go and buy drinks and there's a place to sit and stuff. Mostly what happens here is that you would buy whatever you want at a stall and then you just find a place to sit wherever there's not anything presently, you know, so a street corner or a dock or sitting with your toes dipped in the in the water, the magic water. So there's a lot of that going around, but there's also a lot of activity, right? Like for this area, there's a lot of coming and going and activity. So you know about the Mended Net, but what you also heard about the possible place to find a headquarters down beneath the surface is that there are there's basically two main choices. Unless you're wanting to venture into more dangerous territory. There's a shipwreck village where there's a whole lot of shipwrecks that have been cobbled together, and a lot of people make their homes in those shipwrecks. And technically, like, no one's really in charge of it, but like the good spots are often claimed, and so if you want one of those spots, you might have to persuade its current occupants to give it to you. But there's also what has been described to you as a fancy hotel called the Lost and Found Lodge, which is supposedly really nice, run by the local Fae people, and is supposedly free. And so those are the two main places that you've been told about, but those are down in the water.
Well, given where we are, I'm just saying nothing's free.
Well, you know, it's certainly something to be mindful of. There may be a catch of some kind.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of going in strong and trying to throw somebody off their ship and take their ship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically throwing them off their shipwreck, I think, but the idea is sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we need anything to do that? I'm assuming that they use money. Well, they've already talked about gold, but there's probably other things down here that people need and use, like currency. I mean, things that are found and things like that.
Why don't we go poke around and just see what we could see?
Sure. The place here is not that big, meaning, you know, walking around for 10 minutes will show you pretty much the basics of everything, right? Where you'll see that there's all of the, there's the region that they locally call the Edge, which is the actual parts of the docks that kind of stick out into and just adjacent to the area where the water changes. And you can see that literally when you want to go in, you can climb down in gently or just jump in, and you apparently just will sink down to the bottom. Not at a rate so dangerous that you're worried about like fall damage of any kind, but also kind of certainly not in the typical way that water would work. But to come back out again, people are literally just climbing up ropes. But you also see that there are a couple places where people have set up little, you know, cranes and winches designed to pull heavier things up. And so you pass by sort of that area where people are coming in and out of the water itself. There's no ships on that side because that area of the water would be extremely dangerous for a ship to enter, which is also why perhaps there might be a shipwreck village down there. But in any case, there's also a wide area that you learn is called the Catch, which is basically a big sort of open air flea market sort of setup where people who have found stuff down there will bring it up to offer for sale or trade, but also people who are bringing in items that the locals might want offer that up for sale. You also notice there's a lot of food carts that have signs that are that indicate that the food is free, and it's very clear, has like a little codicil on the bottom that says It is free to anyone who carries out a trade in the catch, and it is not required of you to do anything more than that. It is otherwise offered free to encourage business, and so it's basically like this elaborate length of language that seems to tell you that like it's okay to take some of that food as long as you have carried out a trade in the catch. But the fact that it has that whole little bit, you see that just below it at the bottom, it says contract language provided by the Council of Contracts.
I mean, at least they're honest that their contract definitely has a catch. Is it the place is called the catch? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hello? Is it? Anybody hear me up there?
You also do see that, nearby, kind of adjoining this big sort of open space where all these stalls are set up, you see what looks like kind of a cobbled together building, but it is one of the largest of any kind of actual permanent structure here, as opposed to like tents or other sort of temporary things that might go up and come down regularly. And it has kind of draped over the top of it a big, like a really enormous fishing net. And you see a sign that says the Mended Net.
Well, at least that's easy to find.
Yep.
It would be interesting to see what sort of things people trade and what they're looking for. That might give us more for our cover story, or more that we can do when we're down there. Maybe a way to increase our funds or resources or connections. It might also be something useful.
Well, why don't we go dip our toes into the catch and see what there is to trade?
Sure. One other thing that I'll just touch on briefly is that, especially with last session, everything was kind of in a very controlled circumstance, and so there wasn't necessarily a lot of risk. There's more risk here because we're in a risky position, but also just a reminder that although this group in particular with our 5e game is very used to over planning and doing a lot of gathering information and that sort of thing, this game system is really designed to reward just jumping in and not necessarily having to spend all that time planning, because you can do things like flashbacks, for example. So rather than over planning something at the beginning that might just kind of fall apart as soon as you do anything, it's designed to let you say, oh wait, no, I did think of that before, and only you didn't really, you just think of it, just in the same way that your gear is undeclared until you declare it.
I want to go hunt for a shipwreck to use as a headquarters.
Okay.
I think we should do that.
That would be down at the bottom of the ocean. You just want to skip past all of this stuff?
Yeah, let's just jump in.
All right.
Well,
You're
don't
the
forget
boss,
we need to be careful because the Titan calls to people. So
No, we're not going super deep. We just want to, find a place to, hang our hats or whatever.
okay.
And because we're aware that the Titan calls to people, maybe we can sense it before it happens or deal with it. But if we just stay here, we won't know.
That's true.
We could also answer the call.
Mm,
Maybe not yet.
Yeah, probably not such a great idea right away, but
Soon.
Besides, we can always come back to the catch. Maybe we've gotten our own catch to sell.
That's a good idea. All right. Last one in's rotten egg.
Sure. So one of the things that you see as you're on your way there, you do happen to pass, like you're walking out towards the end of one of the longer decks that kind of goes out into where you can descend. You see from one of the adjoining decks, you note a rather sort of dour, serious looking human woman dressed in kind of like Rags suggests that they are like tattered to the point of like not necessarily functional. Her clothing seems extremely functional, but just extremely weather worn. Like she has maybe been wearing the same outfit for a long time, but doing what's necessary to keep it patched and all of that sort of thing. But you see her kind of you notice her watching you as you pass, but she doesn't say anything.
I waved to her.
Okay. She doesn't wave back, but you see that you just see that she notices, but she doesn't wave back. She just is watching you with unchanging expression.
Okay.
So, as you get to the end of this this dock, you're looking down, and the water does have just a little bit of a shimmer to it, especially when you can actually see that the boundary of the regular ocean water and the magic water of this particular region is a quite stark boundary, and you can see a little bit of a shimmer in the magical area as the surface is suddenly calmer and more still, and you can look down and you can see more clearly through it because the surface is calmer. And as you watch, someone ahead of you has just kind of, hopped in and is now just sinking down in without apparently a care in the world.
We'll go
Most
to.
unusual experience.
All right.
Looks like fun.
Okay.
Is there any kind of a diving board?
I mean, no, not as such. Although it's just the end of a dock, you could dive if you wanted.
Well, I'm gonna dive and do a flip.
Okay. So we have Garland jumps in, and I think there is a moment where your body tries to tell you, "Oh no, I'm breathing water. This is terrible. What's happening?" And it takes a second for you to sort of persuade your body that it's okay, because there's just a flash of panic, but it eases, and you find that your flip is not moving as fast as you kind of intended, so you're kind of sort of awkwardly tumbling as you sink down through the water. Is everyone else following promptly, or are you kind of watching that for a while?
I'm wading in.
Well, there's no waiting because there's no shallow part to step on. It's just kind of.
Yeah, I'm not like gonna like jump and belly flop in though.
Well, I mean, you can you can sort of like sit down on the
Casually
dock and
stroll.
ease yourself in, but it's like a swimming pool with no stairs, right? Like you can't really wade in because you have to just either you can sit down and ease yourself in from a sitting position, or you can kind of just hop in.
Just do that.
All right.
I'm gonna
gonna
run
keep it
past
cash.
Carolina before. I'm gonna run past Primrose before she goes in and then cannonball like right in front of her.
I think Nedry will just walk to the edge, kind of survey that, and then kind of hop, and then sort of stiff, long body,
Yeah.
just step in or plow in.
So here's a question that I don't think we established definitively when we were on the ship before. Buster in the tower? Not in the tower? What's
Yeah, we talked about that, and we thought maybe in the tower
Yeah,
for right
yeah.
now. Try not to.
I
attract
figured that was where he was. I just wanted to establish it definitively.
Yeah,
Does the tower
Paradise and Astra are just walking along with us.
does the tower count as one equipment point? We did my shadow
Yes.
skin, but we did
Yes.
not talk about the tower.
Yeah, so
Okay.
whoever has it that'll count as one as well.
Okay.
And so as a reminder, we can imagine that you have all of your stuff, but it'll only count as a slot of gear if you have it like ready at hand. We have to assume that anything that, like if you end up going through all of your declared loadout, then that just means that everything else is like packed up and you can't get at it easily. Okay, but so all of you, as you hop into the water, find yourself sinking at a manageable rate. You're not. It's a bit like the speed of Featherfall. Like you're descending much more quickly than you normally would through water, even weighted down, but not so fast that you're worried about any sort of an impact at the bottom. And like with Garland, you have a little bit of a moment where your body is trying to tell you that you shouldn't be breathing water. But then once you get kind of a lungful or so, you're like, oh, kind of, yeah. I mean, it feels weird, but it works. And you sink to the bottom, and I'll put you on our next map here. Okay. Let it actually load in properly here. So this is top down, and you are basically arriving kind of right at the center of this area here. Let me I've just moved our clocks in. But you're arriving down right here in the center of this area, where you can see to the north there's this just sort of towering conglomeration of all of these different shipwrecks kind of like glommed onto one another in a ramshackle mound of different ships. And then on the other side, you see did I make a handout of this? I did not. There's a piece of artwork that I'm going to show here in just a second that is you see the Lost and Found Lodge. And so that is this part that is down here at the bottom, but I have a piece of artwork that shows like the front of it. Yeah, I did not plan this right. There we go. Does everyone see that? Yeah, so that is what the front of the Lost and Found Lodge looks like from the little square that you've landed in, and you can see at the top the sort of the prows of these different shipwrecks kind of arriving, or not arriving, but like looming over you is what I mean to say. So yeah, you've let me put your tokens on there, but having arrived in here, there's a pretty clear demarcation of what are the different places that there are there to see. Like the two places you've been told to look for, the Shipwreck Village and the Lost and Found Lounge, and you're pretty sure which one is which. There is also to the east here, there is a bridge that leads further away from the Lost and Found Lodge and the Shipwreck Village into another area of shallow water that seems to be, less filled with constructed buildings. But that's really the only other place to go from where you are.
Shipwreck Village?
Yeah,
Or poke around?
let's
Yeah.
look
See who we
around.
can kick out?
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So tell me how you approach it. Remember that we should try when possible to like approach it fiction first. Describe what you're doing, and then we figure out what the role is. Let me give you your Paradise and Astro tokens as well. I don't have interior maps for it anyway, but so yeah, you just see that basically, if you kind of work at it, you can sort of swim vertically, but it's an effort, right? So like it's an athletics check akin to the way that Zinhorn's flying used to be. Like if you want to swim straight upward, you can, but it's hard. So that is a way that you can do it, but also you're kind of just buoyant enough that it's not too hard to climb up the side of things. And you see that that is definitely how some people get to the higher ones. But you also sense, looking at the, like the ground level stuff, that there might be actually be like tunnels and hallways sort of constructed in and amongst these things too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, they're like stair pathways and stuff like that. Can we see those on the ground level, or are they more like high up?
Mostly they're higher up because they are bridges in between the higher up areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So, do we take the strong arm technique and try to work our way out, or try to ask around and see if there's a place that nobody's using?
I don't know. I think if we strong arm our way, it'll give us a better reputation down the line.
Yeah. Not
Definitely give
afraid
us a
to get in.
reputation.
What?
It'll definitely give us a reputation.
Well, yeah. I
Well,
mean,
Yeah, I think maybe down here that's a good thing.
yeah.
All right, I'm willing to try this.
I mean, we kind of need to go against our general inclinations. It feels like, like what would the pocket protectors do? Then do the opposite of that. Except for murder, we won't do
I don't
Well,
know
you
if
say
I can
that
go
now.
quite that far.
that until it's time for murder.
So
I was just gonna say, why don't we just find some place that we like and I don't know,
Yeah.
figure out how to get it.
All right.
So you want?
Let's go real estate shopping.
All right. So just going to start by kind of just go exploring around and like looking for a place that seems like it would be a good spot.
Yeah.
I think that we should go like this way and see if there's like a way under here to kind of start climbing up and looking around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, high vantage point, and I think give us a better view of this place.
Mm-hmm.
As for the general geography
Oh,
that we
hang
kind
on.
of heard,
My roll
Oh.
20 is
Oh, no.
resetting. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go.
has anybody else seen a join voice and video button they can't get rid of?
Yes, that is actually what I just did to get rid of it. Was I went to settings, audio and video, and changed chat tech to none, and that worked, but it did. That's what caused my roll 20 to briefly reset. But so as you are attempting to make your way in and start looking around, I think there's like what's the vibe? Are you just kind of trying to so for example, the different sorts of skills that might come into play would be survey, which is like if you're just kind of trying to observe and like walk around and just try to look for a place that looks good. Whereas if you were trying to like ask someone where they thought would be good, that would be different. Or for that matter, command someone to tell you where somewhere they thought would be good. Or or prowl would be to like try to stealthily move through, for example. But like, what's your vibe as you start making your way through?
Would it be possible to actually use study to look for a place that's maybe not occupied already?
Yeah. Well, hang on. So let's see. When you study, you scrutinize details and interpret evidence. And then with survey, you observe the situation and anticipate outcomes. So yeah, I think study could certainly work, especially if part of what you're trying to find is a place that is not already occupied.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do personally.
Okay, sure. All right. So this we could have this be an individual action, or this is another thing where because if you're all contributing, we could make it a group action.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good tactic.
All
And
right.
it's risky now, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But you only need one more tick of the clock for finding a headquarters. So basically, if you get even, even a mixed success, then you'll fill that clock at least, which means that you will find the place that you think is the right place, and there might be some other obstacle, but we'll see, right?
Okay.
So a group action, we need to decide who's the leader of that. And then everybody who's contributing would roll their study. So who wants to lead the group action?
I'll do it.
Okay. So everyone
Yeah,
who wants to contribute, roll. Yeah. I think in this case, the cohorts don't need to do it, but the rest of you all would be helping.
Okay.
You said study is what we're rolling?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then for effect, is it standard?
Yes, it would be standard in this case.
So
All right.
it's
And then
risk.
0 bonus dice, right?
Ooh.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
We've already got.
Rolled
Okay.
6 with 1 dice.
Well, three of you got 6s actually, which I don't know if crits count in I don't know if crits count in group actions. That's a good question. Let's see, teamwork. Lead a group action. Yeah, okay. So there is one of you got a 3 as your best result, which means that you're going to take 1 point of stress, Nightshade, for leading the group action.
Okay.
Let's see. The team counts the single best result. So that means that even though more than one of you got a 6, it doesn't count as multiple 6s.
Okay.
But it is a 6, which means I think that you go through and you find a couple of areas where you find a couple of spots that are clearly unoccupied, but are kind of, it's obvious why, because they're not, great. Like they're kind of cramped, or there's a lot of splintered wood around, or that sort of thing. You find a lot of that. You find a lot of places that are like sort of obviously occupied. But I think with a 6, what I'm going to give you is basically the choice between 2 situations, which I'll present. One is a place that you think is it's reasonably sized, meaning you all don't necessarily need a ton of room just for yourselves because you kind of also have the tower, right? But certainly if you wanted to actually spend any time in this area and or ever have anyone come over to see your cool place or something like that, it's a little small for that. Like it's smaller than you would think is perfectly ideal, but it does seem to be to have been recently vacated. The other one is you actually pass by and you overhear some voices laughing in kind of a mean way, and you hear them talking about how they have just stolen all of the money off of some newbie treasure hunter who didn't know what he was doing. And as you kind of look over, you see that is the prime spot that those people are in. So, like, the choice is you've got an okay spot that no one's going to fight you for, or the really good spot currently occupied by bullies.
Yeah, I really don't like bullies.
Same.
I really don't like bullies either.
I hear you. I hear you. So technically speaking, we have filled this finding a headquarters clock. So you have have what you have a place that could work. But if you also want the even better place that where the bullies are in there, you might have to make the bullies leave. In which case, I'm going to create a new clock to represent the bullies' determination to stay in their cool place. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Can we call it the punch and bullies clock?
Well, sure. That seems to be a bit of nominative determinism there. Just to
Well,
use-
we could just fight them, or we could scare them away.
We could scare them.
It might make more of a reputation for the place being haunted. Keep others
Yeah.
away.
I actually I have a question about that because one of my skills was the occultist. I know like a summoning spell or something like that. Is there a list of different rituals in the game book?
No, I think there might be, but I don't think we're using those because those are setting specific.
Okay.
What I would say in this context is you can certainly think of those rituals as being like any spells that you might normally know, right? Would certainly count. But part of the fun of this is that we can also envision that magic is a little weird here, and so maybe you have something you can like sort of create, and we can decide fictionally what makes sense, but it doesn't have to be anything previously established. You can decide what it is.
Okay, so I will tell everybody that I want to I'd really like to summon or conjure something spooky to sort of walk in there. Do you guys have any ideas?
Something actual or something just appears spooky?
Oh, it's pretty spooky.
Well, I mean, I can summon a celestial.
That's not exactly spooky. That's more
Remember-
inspiring.
Remember when we went to the library and my shadow friend was there and we were chatting and it was really creepy and unnerving to everybody?
Yeah.
It could be something like that, but maybe
Well-
even spookier.
I mean, I've always found the undead to be pretty creepy.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I could maybe summon some undead. And,
Do we
like-
know much about who they just bullied? Because if they're dead, that would be spooky.
Yeah, it
If
would.
not, it could be like the parent of whoever they just bullied. Rise up to get revenge.
So I'll also remind you that at least right now, you have. I think when you kind of glanced in, okay. Here, let me put it this way. Right now, you've seen from the outside what you're sure is a great place, and you heard at least 2 voices. So you don't necessarily know how many more might be in there. If you want to find out, it's going to be risky. Or you could just assume that you're up to it and march right in, however you want to do it. I'm just letting you know that right now you don't know how many there are.
Can always do what do they call it? A stick out?
A stakeout?
Right,
Well-
that's what it was.
So, Nightshade. Have you ever? Well, you probably wouldn't remember. I remember when I was in we were back in the city. There used to be people that would come around and like knock on doors and be like, have you heard? Like, do you have a minute for us to tell you about Rushama or something like that? Have you ever?
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
done anything like that.
Yeah, Baldu and I kind of did that a little bit when we were in that place with the beach party.
Emersham.
Yeah, we kind of did that a little bit when we were in Emersham. So, are you saying like we should do that, like just to
Well-
kind of maybe get a lookout?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, just go and knock on the door and say, I'm with, the Mistress of the Dark, and I just got this sense that there was something around here, and have you had any trouble with, the spooky and unusual, and have you considered maybe the Mistress of the Dark could help? But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we could do
Remote-
that.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to suggest summoning Baldu. I always thought he was a
Oh,
little
that would
spooky.
be nice. Yeah, I don't think he could come away from his very important task too. But if it comes down to it, I can raise some dead. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So, do you want to? Do you want to come with me, Primrose, or should I take
Sure, I could tag along.
Aster? Okay.
Hmm.
So we will approach
Yeah.
the door.
Yeah, so I would
looking-
say there's basically like I would imagine you all kind of backed off a little bit while you're having that conversation, but like there is one of these sort of gangplank paths between two ship hulls leading up to where you would be able to get on board this particular, get inside this particular ship's hull. Um, and so, are just a couple of you going up, or are the rest of you staying behind?
I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Just that Indigo will stay back a bit so we can watch what's going on without being involved directly.
Okay. All
I
right.
think
Before we charge up there, I think it might maybe have a little, chat with Nightshade to discuss our approach. It's like how good are you at pretending to be all like mystical and possessed and stuff?
let me look at my sheet. I'm good at. I have 2 in attune and 2 in command. But like my highest thing is study.
Pretending
And I
in
also
some
have
kind of
1 in
performance or
sway.
deception would be probably sway, but
Yeah, I have 1 in sway.
but I might allow a tune just because that is
Look
kind
like
of
you're in a
like
trance.
this is a little magica thing, and it's certainly that's Zaylene's normal vibe anyway. So like I think we could justify. So to some extent, what I want is for you all to tell me what you're doing, like we're watching this as a TV show, and
Right.
then you can tell me what skill you think that should be, and I will assess the position and effect resultingly.
I think that we could go up there and I could actually say that I am speaking with the Mistress of the Dark, that she sent me here because there's
So-
something dangerous going on.
Yeah, kind of what I was thinking is that you have your whole like spooky vibe going on, and I don't know, like make up talking in tongues or something, and I could go and say, look, this is my friend. She's a very all powerful, whatever, and she senses something here, and I don't know, see how it goes.
Remember that you still have 3 ticks of your establishing a cover story clock too. So, you're going to make an impression on these bullies. So how you do that could contribute to both things, right?
Right. All right. I think that's a good idea. You could do the talking, and I could speak in tongues and be very spooky as
Yeah,
I
you gotta
do.
be real spooky, like dial
Oh.
that spooky up to 11.
I just pull my mask down over my face and stare at you through it.
I think you both kind of detect that the voices inside have stopped talking, and you hear one of them say, "I think someone's out there."
Okay,
We nod.
Let's go time. So I will knock on the door, cross my arms.
I will roll my eyes back in my head like Sybil Trelawney. And just be like, oh.
So I think what you've got is like someone has like cut a doorway plus door into the side of what was once the hull of the ship here. And so that's the door in this context. But I think the door is not a perfect seal, but it doesn't open. You sense that someone has moved to the other side of it, and they're just like, "What do you want?"
Yeah, my friend here, she's a little sensitive to stuff, and I don't know, there's something weird about your house, and Yeah, you might want to let her look around because that stuff is no good. It's dangerous. Let me just say.
All right.
So much death.
Okay, so that sounds like a sway to me. I think right now, I think that it's going to be risky, and I think it's going to be limited because they are already suspicious of anyone who would be coming to their place, right? And so what that means is limited mechanically means you would only get one tick of a clock even with a success.
Really
But
just want him to open the door.
right, well, sure, sure. But I'm just saying mechanically what it might mean because it might get them to open the door, right? But so I'm just going to say it's a limited in terms of what a success would mean. So it would be sway. Remember that if Nightshade wants to assist, that can be done by marking stress to give you an extra die. We could also do Devil's Bargain. You can also push yourself. Those are sort of the options. Also, bearing in mind that sometimes you can negotiate, for example, for a different position or effect. Like if you said like a Devil's Bargain in exchange for a standard effect instead of limited, for example, right? But I just want you to know what your options are. In the meantime, you've made your pitch. Let's see a sway roll. Oh, look at that.
Yes.
So that was risky limited, but you got a 6. And so that I think just the with a 6 it is just you do it. And so hang on, I'm just trying to I had this neat pages earlier that just really summarized all of the action rolls. And there we go. Yeah, so on a 6, you do it. So we said limited effect, so I'm gonna choose our punching bullies clock is gonna tick by 1. And I think the limited in this sense is they open the door to basically just say, "Death, what are you talking about?" And you see that there's the one person who's kind of right there by the door who's talking and open, but you see kind of back in there behind them, you see 2 more. Two of them look like human, one like a tiefling, but they also look like they haven't seen sunlight in a while. They're kind of raggedy outfits too, like they've been here for a while. Sailors' clothing, otherwise though, like they maybe jumped ship. But so, Death, what are you talking about? So they've opened the door. They're not letting you in at the moment.
How does this flashback thing work?
So the way that works is you want to. So you would basically say, "I want to have a flashback to establish X." And based on how difficult or complex it would have been for you to have previously done X, I will tell you how much stress it costs. It'll be either 0, 1, or 2. And then, depending on what it is, we might have to have a roll for it. But otherwise, you can establish that previously you had arranged something.
So what I'm thinking is that when we were still back with Sunya and all our friends back there, that our I'm trying to remember his name now. Sequential.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I remembered it. So Sequential's a tinkerer, and sometimes some of his stuff doesn't work out. And he ends up with like, I don't know, like bottles of weird stuff, like I don't know, like something that looks like snot or ectoplasm, something like that.
Okay.
And in our bag or in Nedra's pouch or something like that, it's just kind of what happens to the discards. And maybe looking through that bag, say, hey, maybe this is something that we could use.
So what I'll actually allow is that instead of a flashback costing you stress for that, I will just say you can declare that one of your gear slots is that.
Okay.
It is a jar of mysterious ooze. Or whatever you want it to be, describe it. But like, if it's just the sort of thing you can hold in your hand, I would say you can declare one gear slot to have that handy.
Okay. And yeah, so I will have a jar of ooze
Uh-huh.
that I have to have handed it off to somebody, that was the thing, so that they could go be sneaky.
Okay,
and
okay.
plant this.
I see.
See
Okay.
what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah.
Well, so I will allow that. So that you had it, sure, that's gear. If you wanted someone to have planted it, that would be a flashback, and I think that we would. It would probably be like to plant it like inside their place.
Yeah, so that like because I
Because
imagine
we can
these things are
absolutely
kind of
do
like-
that, but it will be a roll.
Yeah, that these ships are kind of like creaky and
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
got some
No,
cracks
so
and stuff.
how-
Yeah, yeah.
So the way that this works, and the way I've seen flashbacks handled that I think is fun, is by declaring it, and I'll tell you that this will be a one stress flashback for you to have. It will have happened. And we're going to do a roll, but the consequence if the roll goes badly is not that it didn't happen. It would be that something else has complicated it. Right? So by declaring the flashback, it's true that someone went and planted it in there. But depending on how that roll goes when we do this little flashback, there might be some other complication that results as well. All right? So, who is it that would have tried to go and plant this mysterious slime ahead of your knocking on the door?
Would that be like a prowl thing?
If it's sneaking in stealthily, that's definitely going to be prowl. But theoretically, if you tried to have like you found out some other way to drip it in there from outside or something like that, I could imagine that being different. But like if it's just sneaking in, planting it, that's prowl.
Ooh,
So
couldn't
a
you
mage hand
use-
dripping things
Yeah.
in, or
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, couldn't you use your invisible mage hand?
Oh, yeah. So I would probably call that an attune roll for whoever's doing it. For whoever has that and is doing it.
I don't have it.
I don't have any attune points at all.
Nedry does.
Okay.
Garland has one as well.
Oh, I have mage hand. I just
But,
don't have it
but
equipped
Nedry
on
has a
my
bunch.
sheet. Yeah.
Yeah, Nedry has good attune. Do you have mage hand?
Yep.
All right. And also, it wouldn't necessarily need to be literally mage hand. We could just say, you're using your
mean-
magic, right?
Technically, every day when he wakes up, he can change out his ketchup.
Okay.
So,
So,
yeah, sure. he does.
how about this then? Tell me how Indigo, aka Nedry, uses
Oh, yeah.
your magic to sneakily plant this goo inside. And we're flashing back that this happened already before Nightshade and Primrose went up to knock. So tell me how you were doing it, and then we'll have you roll attune to see how it went.
So, these places are full of holes, which is terrible when you're trying to keep warm, but great when you're trying to sneak something in. Managed to find a hole about the right height, a little bit up, because it's strange to be able to move in all dimensions without any efforts whatsoever. And then it was simply a matter of uncorking the bottle, using the mage hand, which is great because this stuff is disgusting, to essentially dip all of its fingers in, move in as a fist, and start drawing symbols on the wall in this strange sort of stuff. I think I might be able to illuminate it later, but we'll try this now.
Okay. So how are you seeing inside the place? So you've kind of crawled up the outside and you're looking through a hole in the wall. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Indigo is a small guy.
Sure,
and
sure.
He
No,
can move
no,
in two
I-
dimensions now, and yep.
I buy that. We will see with the roll how well it goes, right? So
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's see an attune roll. This is definitely risky still,
Okay.
but I'll call it
Yep.
standard effect.
Okay. Risky, standard effect, no bonus.
Oh man, that is 2 6s, so that's a crit. So how about this? You mentioned I'll maybe be able to illuminate it later. I'll go ahead and say that like um so how about this? We flash back forward and the guy is just saying like, what do you want, death, what do you mean? And as you watch behind him, suddenly like their lantern flickers and all sorts of strange ghostly slimy sigils all over their walls just flare in ghostly light, and they're just like, what the fuck, what the hell, what is that? And so they're
The messenger. I'm not the.
Doom.
What she said.
A great darkness descends upon you all.
She would know. She's like the mistress of the dark is like her patron or whatever. I don't know how this stuff works, but it's spooky.
So like, wait, so do you know how to get rid of it? Can you get rid of it?
You must leave.
Maybe.
Leave this place and never return.
So this is going to be another sway. But I will say that certainly it's still risky, but you've gone from limited effect to standard effect because of the assistance of this these ghostly images, but also like, they don't want to leave, but so that's why it's standard effect. And so, but that's going to be another sway, and you have all the other sort of normal options.
Who's rolling this one?
Well, so it sounded like it was Nightshade doing that "you must leave and never return" part.
Could I do command for that?
Yeah, no, yeah, you can do command for sure.
Okay.
Because that's really kind of more like what you said anyway, right? And so remember, you can push yourself by marking more stress. You can also, Primrose could assist. These are all your.
I could assist and add maybe some flavor in that. It's like, well, I don't know if you've done somebody wrong recently. That could bring down some pretty nasty stuff. Is that like 1 point, 2 points of stress?
I believe that it is 1 point of stress for 1 extra die. Yes.
Okay. Why isn't it giving me my number? Oh, I forgot. It's because I popped my window out. So it's risky, standard, and 1 bonus die.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it's 2, 4, 6, but that 6 means that you do it, and so a standard effect means we tick the clock 2 more times. So it's not all the way there. So they're not gone, but they do seem extremely spooked, and they're like talking to each other about like, I don't know, man. What do you think? Oh, well, I mean, like, this is the primo spot. Like, I mean, can't we just banish it or something? But they're like definitely freaked out, and I think one of the 3 is not as persuaded by this whole thing, and he seems like he's starting to think this is a little suspicious. But his 2 buddies are pretty spooked. You feel like you need just a little more of a boost to actually get them all out the door.
How about a earth-shattering scream?
Yeah? Who's doing that?
Indigo does have minor illusion.
Okay, yeah. So that's going to be another attune, I think.
Yeah.
I will take, is it 2 points of stress to assist him?
To assist is just 1.
Okay, I will assist him.
Okay,
I
and
can
so
assist as well.
no, only one other player can assist.
Okay.
So yeah, from his vantage point, watching everything that's going on, he kind of makes a small gesture. Little symbols float in the water. Cups his hands over his mouth and starts to whisper, as the blood curdling scream comes from just inside the door right there. So it's standard again. This time, one bonus die.
Yeah. Okay, so
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
that's 5165. So 6 is the result, and so I think that definitely finishes our bully's clock. No punching required, as it turns out. But I think basically you have the first two guys who are just like, oh my gosh, I can't, I can't. This place is already creepy enough. I don't need ghosts or doom or whatever this is, man. And then one of the third guy who'd been standing back, arms folded, says, guys, this is a load of hooey. They're scamming us. I don't believe you can't see that. And then all of a sudden that scream happens right behind them, and they're like, you know what? No, like, you know what? On second thought, yeah, like that's pretty messed up. Yeah, let's get out of here.
Maybe can't stay.
Yeah.
Could I, as he passes by, like the non-believer, like touch him and cast bestow curse on him?
Okay.
Just that he's like
Wow.
extra frightened.
Sure. Yeah. So you've already filled the clock to get them to leave and abandon their claim on this place. So like that's accomplished. But if you want, since you're like, we can have that be just a little flavor bonus, but you've also made an impression. So if you wanted to like leave them with something that might have them go and tell stories about these creepy people who told them there was doom and ghosts in their shipwreck.
That could be part of our cover story.
Yeah?
What do you guys think?
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so I definitely like that, but I think I want to hear a little bit more how just you doing this curse translates to that effect.
Trying to.
Oh, you gotta give him the evil eye and say, "You've
Yeah.
now been marked forever for your crimes."
I
And
like
that
that.
tremulous voice, "You've now been marked
Or
for
just
your
say,
crimes."
as long as you are pure of heart and you have committed no foul deeds, you should be
You played a
safe.
good person today.
Yes, that.
Okay.
I think that like I would touch him
Mm-hmm.
and it would actually leave like a mark.
Sure. Okay.
On
So-
him,
So
on
what?
his like shirt or his arm or whatever is sticking
Right.
out, and I would say, let this be a lesson to those who hurt others. It comes back to haunt you.
All right. So I think that the way you've just described it, that sounds like it's a tune because you're kind of you're doing magic with it. And so that's gonna be a tune. But also I think we're still risky, but I think that's again going to be limited just because you're not really you're spooking him, but you're not really making it about you guys, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if you wanted to push that button harder, you could maybe get standard effect, but otherwise it's limited. See what
How would you?
See, what I'm imagining here is I'm just trying to think. This cover story clock is all about you're not like you're all new here, but people kind of get why you're here, and that might mean anything about what they think, but the point is they will have a story in their head for why you're here that does not include your planning to steal the diamond.
Right.
Right. And so the idea is the ideal is that you have them form a strong impression and then go out and tell other people that there's these new weirdos here that are doing something, right? Because just making an impression of, oh, there's this creepy person doesn't tell them that it's not
Right.
a person who's here to be creepy and steal the diamond.
Right.
Yeah, so remember too, you can just do this for fun. It doesn't have to contribute to the clock. I'm just saying if you want it to contribute to the clock, we need to explain how it would. I mean, even if you just want to
Yeah,
say, well, I mean,
No,
it
I
doesn't
was
have
just-
to. You know, you can just
I
do
just
it for fun.
don't know like what would be a good angle to kind of.
We follow the spiritual currents.
I mean, it is totally okay to not have this do that effect, right? It can just be something you do because it's fun. That's totally okay. I love it, in fact.
Yeah, I think I'm just doing it for fun
Okay.
because I don't know how everybody else would feel about me doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, giving that full-on vibe right off the bat.
Well,
So-
so I think what I originally said is that it would be risky limited, and so that's fine. So like we'll still, you know, give you that.
Okay, and then do I get anything because I have that ritual ability? Does that
I think in this case the ritual is going to be more something, not something you do kind of spontaneously in the moment, but that's something that you prepare for.
okay?
Right? Like if you're going to say I am planning to do a complicated thing, I will perform the ritual for it, right? So
Okay.
if we think about rituals in D&D, you have to take 10 minutes to do it, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
we want to treat it kind of similarly here.
All right. I will. I will roll a tune, but I'm also going to take a devil's bargain.
Okay, so a devil's bargain in this case could either give you one more die to roll, or you can make that limited effect into a standard effect.
I'm going to take another die
Okay.
because I only have 2. So
All right. And so I think that what I'm going to say is that the devil's bargain is that I'm going to tick the raising suspicion clock again, because part of the way that you're scaring him implies dark magic of a sort that might be interesting to certain people and would be something that they would pay more attention to, right? So did you roll one more die for it, or did you
Yep.
you want to? Okay.
I did.
So you got a 4-2-1. So that's not a full success. I had this this page. Okay. So with a risky on a 4 or 5, you do it, but there's a consequence. You suffer harm, a complication occurs, you have reduced effect, you end up in a desperate position. I think that there's going to be a minor consequence. So as you do it, first of all we're gonna tick the cover story clock a little more. It's now at 4 of 6, and he is absolutely cursed and terrified. And I think that he literally lets out just like a shriek, like a girlish shriek, and just pushes past his buddies to run out of the way. And it's difficult because he's just sort of buoyant enough that when you actually try to run, you sort of moonwalk bounce, and it's kind of it's kind of awkward, and it looks really silly in a way that is, you know, pretty much the opposite of this guy's normal vibe. But as you let's see. I'm trying to think what other sort of I think that as you are tapping into your own magic and the magic of this place, and specifically making sort of pronouncements about like the, you know, the morality of this place and the fate of those who transgress and that sort of thing, as you're sort of tapping into that magic to do your curse, I think that there is a moment where you feel yourself connect to something else. It's not the Mistress of the Dark. And you feel, just for a moment, you feel yourself thinking, if I really want to know what's going on here, I have to go deeper. I'm not going to find what I need here. I need to go deeper.
Mm.
and then that sort of sense of connection is gone. You don't fully have the sense that that was like a foreign intrusive thought, but it was kind of a little bit disorienting. So it worked. The guy is spooked. He's running off, bouncing away, bobbing along on the bottom of the beautiful briny sea. Has everyone seen Bedknobs and Broomsticks? Anyway, you suddenly find yourself tapped into something special and strange about this place, and you feel like the good stuff is deeper. And so your minor consequence is you're starting to feel the call, but you can choose to resist that if you want. By what you would do is you start with 6 and then you roll your mental, I think it would be resolve for this one. You would roll your resolve, and whatever your highest result is, you would subtract that from 6, and whatever's left over is how much stress you take to resist it.
Okay.
If you want. You don't have to try to resist it. You can just let it.
I don't take any stress if I just let it go.
Yeah.
So I'll just let it go.
But you're starting to feel the call. So fictionally, we know that's happening. Is basically how that works. Okay. So you have claimed this place, and it has glowing slime sigils all over it, but you know that's not really an actual problem, although I think that there's maybe a moment where you actually kind of walk in to start looking at your new place, and you're like, actually, that stuff is really creepy. Can we clean that off?
Well, I had a thought about that. What if we made this, make this place look even more haunted? I have just enough paste left over that I can put some sort of symbol on the door. And I can also mystically lock the door so that none others can get in. It might help.
Do it.
I'm all in favor of having the door locked so that we can keep intruders out.
Yeah, not a terrible idea.
So what I'm going to suggest is that we have established this place is a great headquarters, and it will be great. And I will suggest that we wait to establish more detail about it until we get to our downtime. Let's finish the score first, which means that you need to do a little bit more to establish a cover story. And instead of, when people see you, instead of you being, what are those adventurer-like people doing around here? You want there to be a case of, if someone asks that, someone else nearby is going to say, oh, them, they're here to blank. Right? That's kind of what you're going for here, is you're trying to establish your presence here is for some reason other than stealing the diamond.
Well, we could follow this thread, pull it further. Be investigators of ghosts, or deal with ghostly apparitions.
We are paranormal investigators.
Yeah. I don't hate that.
I love that.
Ghost
I'll
goners?
bring the dog.
What?
I'll bring the dog.
I'll bring the dog. You gotta have a talking dog. with
Oh,
you.
okay.
God.
Has to be paranormal.
I'm Velma. Who are you?
See,
See,
I was thinking Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I
with
was
the-
I
where
was
they
stuck on
transform
Ghostbusters
into-
also, and
Yeah.
We
have to
actually
start
fits
calling
better
Buster.
for Buster.
So
Jinkies.
does that mean Garland is Shaggy?
Yep.
Let me see.
That means
I'm one of those
Nedry has to be
special-
Fred.
I feel like
No, I think
Nedry
Primrose
is
is
the Velma.
Nedry is, Indigo is Velma. Yeah.
I feel like Primrose would be Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
What's up, Daphne?
I was gonna say I'm like one of those special guest vampires singing rock star girls that they go to investigate because somebody stole our vampire.
So
costume.
hey, maybe your group name could be the Scuba Scoobies.
That's
Ghost
funny.
Goners. Stick with the alliteration.
All right.
I
So
still like the
Ghost
Realm
Goners.
Reapers idea.
hmm?
I thought that
Realm
was
Reapers.
Reapers
So-
of the realm.
In order to establish that, we could stage a ghost attack and fight it. It would be a little more involved than what we did here, but I'm sure with our combined abilities, we could do something like that.
Or we could fight an actual nightmare. I'm just saying it's a
We
possibility.
could,
Mhm.
It's
but
not really the ideal, but they're pretty scary.
It is very close to ghost-like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
Where would we?
We'd have to
get-
find a nightmare
Yeah,
first.
we
though.
would
Like
have to
right
find a
down-
nightmare.
We don't have to. And just kind of, I've got the Badunme deck, so like we don't have to.
That's
we
a
have
little
one
more
right
than
here.
that's maybe a little more than we might be trying to tackle at the moment. The things in
Yeah.
there seem to be significant. But how much control do you have when things come out?
Well, not really so much over what, but where.
Mhm.
That could
Yeah.
be useful.
There's
We could
circumstances.
get ready for a fight.
Yeah, there's random circumstances where it would happen whether you want it to or not, and you can choose where. But you can also like do it at will if you want.
So, if we can find a place which isn't going to be too disruptive, I don't want anybody innocent getting hurt, we could release one of them and fight it on our terms. We'd be ready for it, we'd know the location. This could work.
Although out of the way kind of contradicts the whole concept
Defeats
that
the
purpose.
that you want
It would-
people to
it
see
would
you
have
do
to
it.
be
living room is
like-
all.
Yeah.
It would have to be like right in the middle of that little
The main square.
place.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, there was a courtyard out front where people wouldn't
Yeah.
be killed,
that would
and that
be
would establish
perfect.
some credibility.
Mhm.
And
I might even
honestly,
get hired
I
just to
don't know
find
how
them.
many innocent people you're gonna find down here anyway. Just saying.
Well,
We're innocent. You never know.
I'd have to get to know them to really know the difference.
Totally innocent.
And most of the people down here might just be lost, according to legend. Making their way in the world today. Takes everything you've got.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I think that's the mended net, and that's the top side. So
So, this sounds like a plan.
Mhm.
Yeah, do it.
Yep.
Nice.
Hopefully, it's not like the worst nightmare in there.
well, maybe we should like I don't know, maybe we could make some flyers, say, hey, have you seen anything creepy? You know, this is what we do.
We're
We
ready to
are-
believe you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Got
Because
ghosts?
after
Yeah.
we spread the word about what it is we do, then we create the situation for us to do it in.
You
Yeah.
really want to create business cards again, don't you? I mean, I don't blame you. They
Yes.
work pretty
Kind
well.
of. I mean, they're fun.
All right.
We need
Everybody
So the
needs a hobby.
name?
ghost goners.
Realm Reapers is pretty scary. Kind of creepy. Might fit. What else we got?
Hmm.
Anything strike your fancy, Garland?
I need a minute. I need a minute.
We got time.
We could always establish that as a flashback, I think.
Yeah.
Or downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
Fright folks, the fright train.
The frightened ears.
I like that.
The frightened
That's
ears.
ridiculous. Yeah. Sounds like something out of Disney.
Yeah. Well, because of course there's the movie The Frighteners, which is great, but
Right.
it's
That's
the
where I was
frightened
going,
ears.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, it's like Frontier, Frightener, and Privateer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full
frightened
frontal
ears.
frightened ears. Wait, no.
I think
That's a
that
dance
says
act.
it all right there. Frightened ears.
So, shall
The
we...
fighting frightened ears. If you want to gild it.
Fright Fighters.
Scare stoppers.
I like that. Scare stop. Yes.
We are ready to believe you.
Actually, yeah, the point in the chat room is true. We are more like the Frighteners because we're creating the situation.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, shall we market ourselves, I guess?
sure.
So what did we decide on?
I don't know if decision is exactly the word I'd use. I had a lot of ideas.
We'll sketch them out in an illusion.
So what do we want? The Frighteners or the Scare Stoppers? Or you had
Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Goners?
The Scare Stoppers, a division of the Frighteners.
Hmm.
Ooh, franchise is ready.
Oh.
Hmm.
It does imply connection to a larger organization. That could work in our favor.
Yeah.
Hmm. Will it still fit on the business card, Primrose?
Oh, sure, I can fit however much. I mean, look at the other ones I made. I got this whole thing on there.
Scare
I appreciate
stoppers.
the fine
TM.
print.
It's too bad you couldn't enchant them like you do to like speak. When people look at them, they just like, do you have ghosts?
Oh, I could do
All
that
of
to the
us.
door.
Well, yeah, but it would be funny if like every business card we handed out did that.
It'll take a lot more time to do, but
Yeah. It'd still be cool though. I'm just saying.
By the way, I think I will allow you when we get to that point to choose which of the ships we see on this map is the one, and then we can design the inside of it later. But I'll just keep that in mind. But so yeah, you're still just deciding on a name. Because I think as soon as you do, we're gonna jump cut to you're in the public square about to do your demonstration.
so what did you say? The Frighteners, a division of Scare Stoppers,
I think it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the other way around? Okay, Scare Stoppers, a division of Frighteners. Okay.
So definitely gonna have to make up some flyers that we're gonna have to spread out and like paper the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you make underwater flyers with? Like kelp?
Fish
Kelp?
skin.
Kelp and
Seaweed.
octopus ink.
Well, you could make them above the water and then just bring them down when they're waterproof.
Mm.
So, I think.
So is there a disseminate information as opposed to gather information role?
No. Basically,
Disseminate
I mean,
propaganda?
well, you would describe to me how it is that you go about doing it. So here's the thing, too, is that the truth is your cover story clock really only has 2 more ticks needed. And so probably if you were to go around and do some rolls of spreading out those cards, that might be enough to fill the clock. But it's certainly true, once again, as a reminder that a lot of this game is designed around like the fiction. So the truth is that even if all you did was fill the clock by handing out cards, people that would work in the sense that people would say, oh yeah, there's those people that handed out cards that says they're the scare stoppers or whatever, right? Whereas if you do go above and beyond and you actually fight the thing, it might be overkill for filling the clock, but it would certainly, in the fiction, sell it much more heavily that you are here to actually do things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of those are those weirdos who say they're scare stoppers, as opposed to those are those weirdos who actually fought a monster.
I think we need to go big before we go home.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Row.
All right, so I think I will suggest that what we're doing here is we're jumping forward to you being in the square. Perhaps you are letting everybody you're simultaneously getting people to be clear of where the fight is going to be, but also perhaps encouraging people to be watching from safe distance. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't say that, but you're saying, "Hey, everybody, stay away from this area right here because there's going to be danger." You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I'm offering that maybe that's what you're doing. I'm just saying let's jump to the action is all. So you tell
Yep.
me what it looks like.
Yeah, I think relying upon Primrose's words to convince people that they should not be there,
Like-
except it's going to be really exciting.
Part of me wants to just like not give a warning or anything and like unleash this thing and then they
Yeah.
come get us.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
we
know that's
rush
not
in.
very nice, but
Yeah, but that's how we would make a name, is people who are
Although-
capable of doing that. Like, instead of just running around and being like, "Hey, we're these people," we just
And-
rush in and fight and save, and then
And
we're like, "Oh yeah,
typically-
that's what we do."
As long as we
typically
can-
these things come after us once we unleash them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have targets
True.
in mind.
It would be good if we can predict their location, though, because then we could prepare.
Well, that I can do.
But if they're coming to get us, they're just going to wander away from our location.
do
Well,
you
we
mean?
could always be somewhere nearby where people have seen us being.
Oh, right. Theatrical entrances. Yeah, you told me about some of that once. Some of the stuff you
Very
do on stage,
important.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Now I have to figure out what my dramatic entrance is.
So there are people kind of milling around. You see that there are definitely there's people coming and going from the Lost and Found Lodge. There's people coming and going from the Shipwreck Village. Although by and large, it definitely looks like the people coming and going from the lodge seem to more often be looking almost like tourists on vacation, accompanied by fae. Fae individuals. Whether there's mermaids and some just like sea elves and other just like kelp dryads and that sort of thing. Whereas the people coming out of the Shipwreck Village tend to look more like time for another day of digging through the piles of junk to try to find something cool. That sort of distinction. But yeah, there's people around.
I think outside our shipwreck, our headquarters, that we should have a hammock out there and one of us just kind of be like laid back with the feet up and maybe the hat pulled down over their eyes. You
And-
know,
And a large, creepy-looking dog next to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
How's your whistle?
I think it's hard to whistle underwater.
Well, you can yell pretty loud. That starts.
That's true.
We'll have to think of a signal for next time.
Caw.
Wah, wah, wah.
You up here. You up here.
hey, listen.
Yep, I think we got 'em all.
Listen up.
Okay, so tell me what happens. I mean, I think the things that you've described so far don't require rolls.
Right. So are the rest of us just going to be like inside, or should I guess if I want to conjure this thing, I'm going to have to be somewhere kind of nearby-ish. Oh, is there like a crow's nest or something so that I could be like kind of up top?
Yeah, sure.
Crow's nest
Well,
with
so-
a view of the square.
So, yeah, I mean, you could. So here's a question that I'll allow you to decide right now. Do you want your headquarters to be in a ship that's right side up or upside down? Because as we see, there's both.
Ooh.
It's a big decision.
I'd kind of like it being upside down.
See, I kind of prefer a right side up, but oh, what if it's half and half? if our ship is like half of it
On its
is
side.
like yeah, half of it is like, but it's like broken in half.
Oh, so
half of it
it's
landed
like-
upside down.
Okay. Do you think it's even two halves of the same ship?
Oh, it could be
Doesn't
two
have to
different
be.
ships.
You've got a cobbled together with, you know, someone has carpentried together one half of a ship that was upside down and one half of a ship that was right side up, but now they're one
Yes.
piece.
Yes.
Perfect.
And everybody's happy.
All right. So how about this? Go ahead and I've got all your tokens out. You tell me where they are. We're not going to be using it quite like a tactical battle map exactly, but you know, just to basically describe what's going on here.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we have the controls.
Yeah,
Don't
I
you?
can't click
Oh.
mine.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know
I
why you
can't.
don't. Well, okay, give me a second. I don't know why
I
you
can
all
move,
don't,
but I can't move.
well, it's
like-
because
There you
you set your own up before. So I get just everyone chill out just a second.
Oh.
Looks like mine is working.
Yeah. Well, I'm going through and I'm doing them one at a time. So because that's what it takes.
Yay.
Okay, just let you know.
Mm.
Um.
Where shall I place myself that I look most casual?
Everyone should be able to move all of the NPCs as well. So. And
She's like, I'm coming up here.
so I will, delete this punching bullies clock because you filled that one already. And finding headquarters as well.
You gotta have your shadow with you, Nightshade.
Okay. He's
By
following
shadow,
me.
I mean, what's his name? I wrote it down here.
Aster.
Aster.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He's in danger. Is it an
Who is
asterisk?
that? Is that Zephyr that I-
Yes. Quite like that one. Yes. Evan's in danger again. It's an asterisk.
Evan needs to be Daphne.
Well, see, because all of the NPCs, though, have to be like, when Batman or the Harlem Globetrotters or Don Knotts or
Yeah.
whoever is guest starring.
Yep.
Anyway.
Who knows a good person to commission for some art for this? Because it feels
Alright.
like it needs to have a. Our upside half ship is the
Alright.
mystery machine, of course, and
So I think
Yeah.
all of you placing yourselves like this doesn't require any kind of a roll. But certainly, if, let me know when you're doing something risky.
I can move Zinhorn. I'm just saying. I don't know why.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Probably I gave you rights
It's
to it at some
fine.
point, but it doesn't,
It's fine. All right.
All right. Are we ready? Ready to do
Yeah.
Yep.
Betcha.
We
this?
will
All right.
then.
So
Is Primrose not on here? Where are you?
I'm up here in the corner.
Oh,
it
I
looked
see.
crow's
I see.
nesty.
I didn't have I didn't have the map zoomed out enough to show you there. There we go.
Way up there.
All right.
It was like, yeah, that was the
No, that's
crow's
fine.
nestiest.
Sure. Okay, so you are letting a nightmare out.
This is either gonna go really well or really, really badly.
Well,
Let's
I'll tell you what
see.
we're gonna
That's
do
appropriate.
is we're gonna do a fortune roll to see how well. How bad is the one that whatever comes out. So I'm gonna ask someone to just roll just a straight d6, just one d6.
I guess that's probably me since I'm holding the
Yeah.
deck.
I think yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So you can do it as a fortune roll or just do regular roll, however you want to do it.
Number of dice is 1, right?
Mhm.
There's a roll fortune button down at the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I hit, and it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Fortune 4. Okay, not as like
could be worse.
yeah, could be worse. Could be worse. So I think you feel the deck discharge its magic, and shimmering into existence in the center of this square is a there's a moment where you sort of feel like if Sequential was Dr. Jekyll, then this thing would be Mr. Hyde. It is a 12 foot tall, like sort of a metallic automaton creature, except that it is shaped in kind of like just this hunched over, almost like ogre like hunched over gorilla posture, and it has all of these spears on its back that are they look stained with blood, like spears that stick out, like point out, and they look like blood stained, and you see like writhing spectral figures impaled on them.
I'm having regrets.
And it kind of goes shoom, shoom, roar. And of course all the people nearby start screaming and running away. So now what?
Oh no.
Step one complete.
Incidentally, I am adding a 6-step clock to represent this thing that this marvelous creature you've created. Let me set it to 1. This is the nightmare.
Okay.
All right. Have at it, Scare Stoppers.
That's us.
Don't all charge in
Yeah.
at once.
How does this work? Like normally we roll for initiative, so I
yes,
don't...
again, so there's no initiative here. You just remember, start from the perspective of, imagine we're watching the TV show or reading the book about it. What happens first? Who decides to be the first to act, and what do you do?
So I think we kind of saw this as a signal, but I think we should announce our presence, and kind of
Scare stoppers, assemble.
or something equivalent.
the same thing.
I mean, I think you all would have been waiting for this, and that roar was kind of unmistakable. So I don't think any of you are unclear that this is happening now.
Well, I'm thinking kind of as a flashback action, we would have readied this, if you will, if that makes any sense, or set up or something, to have this. I'm just trying to think of who would be the best to give that signal. Actually, probably Garland, because you're right there.
I'm
That
right
is
there.
kind of your role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stand up out of the hammock that I'm in and call out, "Scare Stoppers, assemble!"
I'm not going to have it be like, we're not doing standard like D&D initiative turns here. So I'm not going to like have this be a very consequential thing. This is a controlled action, but I want you to make a roll to get up out of a hammock in a hurry.
I was afraid you were gonna say that.
I mean, you did it to yourself. So
Is that finesse?
No, they did it to me. I didn't select a hammock. It was selected for me.
you just said I get up out of the hammock. Anyway, but yes, I would say that is probably finesse.
All right.
And so this is a controlled standard roll, because like nothing's near you at the moment, and so it doesn't seem like it's terribly dangerous. I just want to know how it goes.
Standard, no bonus dice.
For so on a 4, I think you're going to either accept, proceed with a minor consequence, or you're going to you can say, if you continue to try to do it the way you were just going to do it, you're going to it's going to go badly. So you can either back up and try some other approach, although I don't know what that would be in this context. Or you can just accept that there will be a potential, reduced effect.
I'm gonna try a different method.
Okay.
Instead of doing it like I was on land, I'm going to roll forward, spread out my wings, and thrust upward
Okay.
so that I'm upright and away from the hammock, and then land down on my 2 feet.
Okay. Well, I'll allow that to be. I hmm. I mean, that's kind of just the same skill, though, right?
No, because I'm like normal way of getting out of the hammock is you kind of roll to the side.
Well, I'm just saying, what skill do you think what you just described would be compared to finesse?
Oh.
You know what I'm going to
Oh.
suggest is that the minor consequence is that you just looked more awkward than you meant to getting out. It's just a
Okay.
little bit wobbly, and it just wasn't quite as cool as you meant it to be. And we
right.
can move on.
Let's move on.
All right. So there's a moment where you start to confidently get out, and you're like, okay. Now,
Buster has to reach out a paw and steady me.
Aster and I are like up there on the thing. We're like, did he say the thing?
not yet.
Is that the cue?
Was that
Now?
it?
Yeah, unless you're saying it now, in which case, say it.
Scare stoppers, assemble!
All right. I'm going to say do a command.
All right.
And this is risky standard. But this is absolutely going to contribute to your cover story clock if you get a success, because you're declaring yourselves as an identity, and it's going to result in. So that's a 5. And so for a risky risky action, a 5 is you do it, but there's a consequence. And so in this case, what I'm just going to say is you do it. Everyone hears it. It's a standard effect, which means you get 2 clocks. Your cover story is now cover story clock is now full.
Woohoo!
And everyone hears it, and they're beginning to move towards your position, and it looks very cool and heroic. And as you call that out, this big robot monster turns and looks right at you, and then begins stomping over in your direction. So it's headed right for you.
That really does seem like the signal now.
Yeah. So that is the consequence. Technically, you could choose to resist it if you want, although that's a relatively easy consequence at the moment, because you're about to engage it anyway.
Right.
But it's definitely got its attention on you specifically at the moment.
All right.
Someone else going to try to do something before it can get to him?
Well, of course. Go ahead, someone.
I would like to try to sneak down from where I am to sneak up behind it. And try to trip it.
Okay. So it's pretty big. I'll definitely. So I'm gonna. I think we need 2 rolls to do both of those things. So to sneak down there and be close to it and behind it without it noticing you is definitely going to be prowl.
Right.
Which I will say is a risky standard. And then from there, if you want to trip it, we'll have to talk about what that actually looks like.
Okay. Got too much stuff going on. Risky, and you said standard?
Yeah.
Okay. It's my 1 dice. Let's see what happens. I rolled a 5.
Okay.
Nice.
So once again, like like Garland's roll, a 5 on a risky means that you do it, but there is a minor consequence. I think that in this case, let's see what might a good minor consequence be here. Because there's lots of things that it could be. I think that, I think that you find as you get close up behind it that some of the weird spectral figures impaled on its back start reaching out for you and moaning and in a very scary way. And so the consequence would be to take the level 1 harm shaken, but you can choose to resist it. You can either accept it, but then we'll have to we'll discuss how that works. But you can also resist it by it would be again resolve in this circumstance.
I will take it, though I don't know, like,
Okay.
whatever that entails.
So harm in this game has the different levels. Level 1 is the lowest. So it's going to be relatively easy to clear, all things considered. But once you have it, stress and no, it's not trauma. Where is it?
Harm is right under stress and trauma on my
yeah.
sheet.
Well, right, but I'm looking in the book for where it talks about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Page 31.
31. Thank you. Yeah, so basically what happens is that because shaken in this case, I think is kind of a resolve question. That means that anytime I think that you being shaken is going to impact what you're trying to do, you will have a reduced effect for that roll.
Okay.
So your effect is going to be one step lower than it would have been. But only where it makes sense that this particular, you are scared by how creepy those spectral figures are. And so anytime that seems like it might have an effect, you'll have one step lower position. But in the meantime, you snuck back up there. It hasn't noticed you. These figures noticing you doesn't seem to translate to the construct noticing you. But you said you wanted to trip it. What does that look like?
I'm gonna reach out with the shade blade and try to stick it between its legs so it trips over its own legs.
Okay. So I think first of all, you make sure you declare as gear that you've got your shade blade. Or wait, no, that's that. Yeah, no, because that's a physical sword, right? That one's not a conjured one. Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be just an unusual weapon?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah, unusual weapon certainly qualifies, and so I think that. So there's a couple of different. I could imagine this being a couple of different things, right? Skirmish would be the skill for if you're thinking of it as a traditional attack, but this sounds a little bit more calculated than that, right?
Like finesse.
Right. Finesse would make sense. Hunt could also theoretically make sense. Wreck could theoretically make sense, but we frame it a little differently depending on which, you know what I mean? I think so I would say if you feel like what this is not necessarily a brute force thing, but just a careful application of pressure in just the exact spot, that's probably finesse. If you're just whanging on it and hoping that the impact is going to knock it down or destroy its leg or something, that might be wreck. Skirmish would be a more basic attack. That would be the most standard one. But finesse, I think, to get it to trip specifically is probably.
Yeah. I will do that. And
okay.
I don't have any points in any of those things. So can I take a devil's bargain to get a dice?
Yes. Remember, you can also push yourself instead, which costs 2 stress. But I know you've got some stress already. So
I have 6 already. So.
Yeah. Okay, so a devil's bargain in this case. I think in this particular circumstance, I'm not going to say that the shaken would reduce your effect. I think that this is, so I'm going to say it's a standard effect. It's definitely a risky position. But what I'm going to say is that I'll give you a devil's bargain to make it a desperate position. Which, what that means is that if you fail and there's a consequence, the consequence will be worse.
I'm actually I don't have any dice, so it's going to be that thing where it's like, it,
Well,
yeah,
if you have 0, it rolls 2 and you get the lower result.
right.
But if you take the devil's bargain for 1 more, you're rolling 1.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah. So what did you say it was?
So the devil's bargain is to make it a desperate instead of risky. Because you're
Okay.
really having to just get yourself right up in it, like right up next to it to try to do this, and you're going to be right there when it either works or doesn't.
Okay. And 1. Let's see what happens.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Oh, look
nice.
at that with your single die roll finesse. That means you do it. So I think what happens is there's maybe all the rest of you are watching with like a grimace as Nightshade is creeping up like right behind it and just getting right there on it. You can see the spectral figures reaching out for her, and so you describe how do you trip this thing? Putting yourself in extreme harm's way, but pulling it off.
I don't even know how I did it because I closed my eyes and I'm like army crawling on my stomach to get closer, and I just sort of stick the shade blade in between like the plates of its armor.
Yeah, so like as it tries to move its leg, the plates can't fold over each other the way they're supposed to, and so its leg freezes up.
Yep.
And so you watch as it, and kind of just falls down on its face. And that was a standard effect, so that counts as 2 ticks of the clock.
Sweet.
Woohoo!
All right.
So I would like to, I guess it would be study
Mm-hmm.
this thing
Okay.
to look for or determine what I think would be most effective, like a weakness, like
Mm-hmm.
where we could hit it or what we could hit it with that would
Sure,
work
sure.
best.
Okay. So yeah, that's not going to contribute any ticks to the clock, but fictionally it could give you something that might give you, a better effect or something for someone else's roll.
Would that be like a setup, maybe?
Yeah. I'm still learning this too, so that it
I
does
just
seem
happened
like
to read a little while ago. So.
yeah. That's in the teamwork section, right?
Yes.
Setup,
Page
yeah. So
135.
yeah, you have an indirect effect on the obstacle. Yes, if your action has the intended result, anyone who follows through on it gets +1 effect level or improved position. So that's basically what I said, but that is the setup per the system. That is so. Yeah, so
this is
if you get a success, then someone who uses that success, that information will get a bonus. So, to their position or effect.
So for survey, it says gather information about opportunities or exploits. Is that better?
I think that is probably a closer to what you're doing here.
Okay.
But I think we could justify either.
All right. Well, I have 2 in survey and 1 in study, so
Okay, well, so I think survey is actually probably the appropriate here.
okay. And it's risky standard
Yeah.
or
Well, in fact, actually, what I would say is from where you are, you're way far away, right? So I'll say it's controlled for you.
okay.
And the effect level doesn't even matter so much because it's basically if you get a success or not, it's just going to determine whether someone else gets a bonus.
So you have 1 die right now?
I have 2 in survey.
Okay. I think this is something we would have discussed during the plan, that since you're so far away, it makes sense for you to use that. So I want to use Indigo's foresight ability
Okay.
to assist Primrose
Okay. Sure.
without taking the stress.
All right.
So that gives me 1 more.
Gives you an extra
bonus.
die.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see how it comes out.
All right.
Okay, not bad.
2, 4, 5. Okay, so a 5 is a success with a potential minor consequence, right? And so I think I think what I'll say the consequence is here is that, gosh, what could it be in this circumstance? I think that
Maybe I'm leaning forward and like
yeah.
trip from my perch a little bit.
Sure,
fall from
yeah.
my perch a little
Yeah,
bit.
so I think yeah, that well so that I like that. So you're so occupied in studying that you kind of stumble a little bit, and I'll and you can take the level 1 harm splinters, or you can choose to try to resist that. I think splinters would probably cause reduced effect in like finesse things, because you're just like, it's like splinters in your hands.
I think I'm gonna go ahead and take it. So that's one of the ones.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Splinters.
All right. Okay, but I think what you see is, especially after watching what Nightshade did and the way it tripped it definitely has all of these different armor plates that are sort of designed to like slide over one another and not really produce very many gaps. To keep it from it being too unprotected in that regard. But I think what you see from so far above is that while it is incredibly well protected and armored, like some sort of from ground level, from above, like in the back of the neck, there's a spot that you think looks like, in order for it to be able to look around and turn its head, it is exposing an area that you think would be vulnerable.
Okay.
And it did occur to me only after the fact that it's like Attack on Titan, that the back of the neck is the spot. Anyway. That's fine. So, but yeah, so I think you discover that it seems like it'll have a vulnerable spot, and it's not easily reached from the ground because it's like 12 feet tall. But if you can get up on top of it, risking exposure to all of those spears sticking out of its back, you think you could really do some damage to it there.
Now, how to communicate that to the others?
In a song.
Yeah.
You are a bard.
Yeah.
Do
Just some
like head
metal
and
thrash
shoulders,
song
knees
called-
and toes, and stop at my neck or
Yeah.
something.
Well, like what? You're worried about it overhearing you or something? I mean, what
No,
is
it's not that. I'm just because I'm so much further away from everybody. I have to figure out like. Although Nedry could have been watching since, or Indigo would have
How
been
about this?
watching.
How about this? You can use a flashback to say that you established some code gestures.
Hand signals.
Yeah.
Well, and in
Just
fact,
semaphore.
Nedry is telepathic, so he
Oh,
could
well,
be listening.
Yeah. No, I think that
Yeah, I mean,
works
I have a
without
message,
necessarily
so-
even. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
I've
message,
got-
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think for all those reasons, there's no
For
issue.
sending.
There's no role needed. It's just, yeah, you just, well, you're also not that far away. You could just yell it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. It's like back of the neck looks like a prime spot, guys.
All right. Nice. So, remember that with Aster and Paradise and Buster, they can act too. They will basically have 2 dice for whatever it is that they try to do. You can either have them just do something of their own volition, or you can have them help you with something to give you increased effect or position. But who
I
wants to
think-
do something next?
I think I've got a kind of a 2-stage action.
Okay.
The first one's going to involve a flashback when we were planning and plotting. God,
Yeah.
words. Indigo was very concerned about being able to because this is all sort of theater as well, about giving the right opening line. So he's workshopping the opening line with all the other people, all the other group. Let me see. A bad suggestion would be something like,
beware evildoers, for the scare stoppers are here to. That seems really long. I'm not sure if I can remember all that in the moment or say it quickly enough. So are there any other ideas?
You're just doing a flashback to get help for decide what you say, or
Essentially, a flashback to set up his opening line.
okay.
To do that. 'Cause
Sure.
That is. I mean, we don't need it for the reputation
Well,
anymore, but
I-
that was kind of the notion here.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely. And I would say that's a zero stress flashback. Although it means that I think what you owe everybody now is what the line is that you all came up with.
And I am literally open to suggestions because
Yeah, I was going to say you kind of put yourself on the spot there.
Oh, well, you know. Because I
Well.
have a line for the actual action. I need something before it.
Well, I
Do we want?
keep going back to Monsters Inc. where it says we scare because we care. So what if we did something like you scare but we care? Like this has to be bad, right? It's supposed to be bad.
Okay.
Scare stoppers,
stoppers.
show up.
Scare stoppers, disassemble.
When you're scared, we care.
Yeah.
We're here
Scare
to
stoppers,
care.
all come everybody here right now.
Well, we already have the assemble. Okay. All right. So nobody gave any good suggestions. So, I gotta still
So
make
the
something up.
flashback
All right.
ends with nobody had any good ideas.
Okay. All right. So Indigo will strike a pose and leap off of the high perch he's got because he can kind of swim for a while, and yell out to the people who are below, "Never fear, for we are here to scare away that which scares ears." And it's not really a great one, but it's his attempt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to roll on that. It's bad enough on its own.
I don't know that we need a roll for the line.
Fair.
I think we've described it well enough. I think that there's a lot of people who are scared and they hear it and you look heroic, but there's also a little bit. Wait, what? What did he say?
Rhyming is hard. Rhyming is really hard. How do they do it?
And then kind of as coming into view, I guess I might use that hint that was given, but the line he's going to say is "the power of ice impels you," as little rocky snowballs form around him and all launch themselves at the back of this creature from above.
Okay, great. So that sounds like a tune for magicking, unless you want to tell me on
And-
something else.
No, definitely a tune.
Yeah.
The setup allows either an effect level change or an improved
So I
position.
think in this, so I will let you choose, but my thinking is that if you are accepting that it is still just like basic risky, which is what mostly you're all doing as you kind of put yourself in the field of combat, but you'll have great effect if you're targeting that area.
Okay. And he will push himself for an extra die.
Okay.
Okay. Risky effect is great, you said?
Yes.
And then one extra die.
Okay, 3, 6, 4, 2. So 6 is in there, and so that is a great effect. So that means 3 ticks on the clock. 1, 2, 3, which means, yeah, you. So describe how you just you pelt this thing's weak spot, and you're damaging it severely, but it's still got a little fight left in it.
So is the setup effect that was created just a one-time effect and now it's used? I can work with that if that's the case.
I think that probably after you have done that, it's trying to cover that spot now.
Okay. So I kind of imagine these snowballs all colliding and just sort of jamming into the gearworks, which kind of fills up the hole in the end. but now it's kind of full of cold ice, which is inhibiting it somewhat.
Yeah.
Little spurts of squeezed snow through its plates as it kind of moves around.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a spell that I wanted to use in the regular D&D, but I'm glad to use it here.
All right. So this thing is it's moving slow and awkwardly. It's trying to cover that spot, but it's also got like one of its legs is seized up a little bit. It's got like ice and snow inside its like shoulder mechanisms. Who wants to try to finish it off?
I will go to finish it off with Buster.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Buster's attack be like, kind of get its full attention, and my attack in front of it also distracting it, and then I'm gonna hit it with my spiritual hammer on the back of its neck.
Okay.
With-
So I think that, like in theory, because it's magic, we could say it's attuned, but I think this sounds more like skirmish, which I think is actually better for you anyway.
Yes.
And because you have Buster there helping, what I'll say is that is Buster helping you to be even more effective, or is he making it safer for you to approach with your attack?
He's making it even more effective.
All right. So I think in this case, then what you're getting is risky, great, skirmish.
Okay. Any bonus dice from him?
No, but what he's giving you is the great effect instead of standard.
Okay.
But you could still, push yourself if you wanted, or Devil's Bargain, any of that sort of thing.
I rolled a 3 and a 1.
Okay. So, that means, unfortunately, that you are you've gotten a failure on a risky outcome, which means that you've got a consequence coming your way.
Yeah.
Can I protect my friend?
Potentially,
I have the mastermind feat. I can expend my special armor to protect a teammate.
Okay, so describe what it does.
It will be in the fiction. It is him throwing his magical shield that he usually does to protect his teammates,
sure,
and
sure.
he's closer to hopefully help.
Okay, yeah. So I think the most sensible effect was going to be a level 2 harm. That would be headed your way, Garland, as this thing lashed out at you when you were trying to attack it. But I think, so your mastermind is, or wait, no, is that what you said? What
It's the mastermind special ability.
Okay.
Oh, I should put myself a little closer to.
Did you have that one? I didn't write that one down in my notes. I believe you. I'm just
Foresight, calculating, and mastermind is the 3 that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Special armor to protect a teammate. Push yourself when you gather information or work on.
I took it because it's most close to what
Yeah.
Nedry was doing with
No,
the shield. So.
I like it. I'm just trying to think if protect a teammate. I don't know if that's how, like, what is the mechanic of that in this context? I'm trying to think.
It might be the protect mechanic, which is that I take the thing instead.
Oh
but
yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
think that is how it would work. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's probably right. So, I'm trying to search, and
Page 135 for the protect.
okay, well, you're on top of things. Oh, you looked it up already, perhaps?
I have the book in front of me. Yeah. I'm trying to
Okay.
exercise all the
Yeah.
rules.
So when you protect, you suffer it instead of them, and you may roll to resist it as normal. So, in this context, I think what it is instead of the level 2 harm heading towards Garland, which I think it would have been, battered, right? Because it's basically just reaching out its big fist to go, boom. So instead, that is coming to you, Nedry, transmitted to you magically through this shield. But you can try to resist it, and you could just take it, right? but you could also resist it by, I think, probably for this one, it's going to be a prowess roll, right? Because it's sort of a physical attack. Well, you know what? I'll allow it to be resolve because you're receiving it through your magic, but that's still only going to be 1d6. So basically, you're going to roll that 1d6 resolve, and then it'll be 6 minus your result is how much stress you take to resist
And
it.
can I push myself on this roll
I
to take 2 more stress?
don't know. You can't push yourself on resistance rolls.
Okay.
But what also keep in mind that you resisting a level 2 harm does not make it not happen. It makes it a level 1 harm instead.
Okay.
All right. So, so go ahead and do your
Okay. Solve.
resolve. Yeah. Okay, 5. So not too bad. So 6 minus 5 means you only are going to take 1 stress, but you're also
Okay.
going to take the level 1 harm bruised.
Okay.
All right. As you sort of feel your magical shield, through arcane means transfer some of the impact to you, but you're able to use your shield to blunt most of the impact. But unfortunately, this thing is still on the move. It just slammed at Garland, and I think it kind of went boom. Looking at its hand a little bit, like that didn't feel right. So it's still up there. Who wants to try something? Nightshade?
I would like to try to cast a spell
Okay.
in classic Nightshade fashion. I would like to Eldritch Blast it.
Okay.
So would that be a tune?
Yeah, we might need to talk about that a little bit, but I think attune is kind of what we've been using for like straight up just magic attacks.
Right.
So yeah, that's what we had Nedry do just a moment ago. So I think that's, yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of covering the weak spot now, so it's still just going to be risky standard.
Okay.
Okay. So on a risky, you got 2 4s. So on a risky with a 4, you do it, but there is a consequence. And so I think what happens is you send your Eldritch blasts into it, and you see it suddenly starting to jerk around, and it's like obviously some sort of pressure spring is building up inside, and then it explodes, sending gears and shrapnel in your direction, and it's going to be a level 2 harm punctured if you don't resist it.
What do you have to do to resist again?
This case, it's going to be a prowess because it's a physical attack coming your way. And so
Okay.
for you, prowess is just going to be 1d6 because you have that 1 in prowl.
Okay.
And so you would roll that, whatever the result is, and you subtract that from 6, and then that's how much stress you take to resist. And then that would
Okay.
make it a level 1 harm instead of level 2.
Okay. I will try to resist, I guess.
Okay, sure. Yeah. All right. Okay, so
Trauma.
it's a 1, which means that 6 minus 1 would be 5 stress, but I believe that completely fills your stress mark, right?
And then some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the extra ultimately doesn't matter.
Okay.
But what happens is that when you fill up your stress, it essentially takes you out of the scene, which is fine because the scene is essentially going to be over now. But it is going to give you a trauma that we're going to need to work out. And I think we can probably talk more about that next time. We will let you decide kind of how that expresses itself. So I will say that let's take that level 2 harm that was going to be punctured and turn it into a level 1 harm of bonked. And we'll say that like none of the sharp stuff hits you, but one of the gears just boonk right in the forehead, and you are just like, for the moment, you're just like you're stunned, you're out of it.
There's like birds, like
Yeah,
bats.
yeah,
flying around
exactly,
my
yeah.
head.
Yeah, doing their little squeak, 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 squeak. So if the fight were continuing, Nightshade would not be able to help for the rest of that scene, right? And you're gonna have to come back with the trauma, and we'll talk about that and deal with that when we do our downtime. But we'll deal with that. But you have defeated the creature, and everyone is like, "Yay! Look, there's a new team of heroes in town to save us from the scary things. They're called. Wait, what was it?
The Scare Stoppers.
Yay! Scare Stoppers! Woo! And so you,
yeah, from the was it Frighteners or Scare
yeah, a
Stoppers?
division
It
of the
was-
Frighteners.
Division
is-
of
Yes,
the
okay.
Frighteners. Yeah.
Yes. So you have succeeded in your first score. You have established your presence in this place as people here to investigate and stop scary things. And you've got a cool new hangout. And so what I would invite you to do between now and next time is start thinking about what your cool half and half ship hangout looks like inside, and what it might look like as you start trying to settle in and figure out what comes next for you all. Because we'll start next time with the downtime actions, where we sort of resolve how that all worked out, if you have any entanglements, if you get like any payment as a result. Like there's mechanics for all of this, entanglements and that sort of thing. And then you'll have downtime actions. You'll want to try to heal those level 1 harms that those of you who've got them. We'll deal with Nightshade's trauma. We'll figure out what that looks like. And then we'll start figuring out what your next score might be. But
I'm just gonna say now that Primrose is hanging hammocks everywhere in that bitch, because that was
Hammocks
funny.
are really a hazard.
now I can imagine it's like, okay, we all saw what happened to Garland, and that was just like we got off the whole thing on the wrong foot. We're all going to drill this. We're going to practice
Hammock
getting out of
training.
hammocks. Yeah, until everyone can do it looking super cool on the first try. Anyway. So, congratulations, Scare Stoppers! You have completed you have achieved your first score in Blades of the Dark. We'll explore more of those mechanics next time when we return for more adventure on so many levels.
So many
So
levels.
many
levels.
And blades and darkness and
monsters
stuff.
and reputations.
Disassemble.
Ah, you disassembled that monster, that was for sure.
Heck yeah.
All right, good night, everybody.